Welcome back. You're watching a special broadcast here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. And with me still are our special guests, Ambassador Javed Ashraf, a former Indian ambassador to France and High Commissioner to Singapore, Ambassador Anil Vadba, a former Indian envoy to Italy, Thailand, Oman and Poland, and Professor Rajan Kumar from JNU, New Delhi. Gentlemen, thank you for your patience. Good to have you on this special broadcast to discuss about India-France ties in light of the Indian leaders' ongoing visit to that country. Now, Ambassador Ashraf, we've seen the two leaders pay tributes at the War Cemetery. They have inaugurated the new Indian consulate in the city. Now we are told they'll be heading together to the ITER project site, which is a nuclear fusion energy site. Have you had a chance to visit this particular facility, and if so, what are your what's your take on the important significance of nuclear fusion energy in the overall context of the energy demands around the world, including in India?
Well, thank you. And yes, I've had the opportunity of visiting ITER. I've seen the facilities, interacted with Indian as well as all the other scientists and engineers who are present there. Now, the visit to ITER has significance, I'd say, in three very important respects. One, of course, is about the future of energy. If this is ever successful, and I think at some point it will be successful, nuclear fusion, that is, can lead to a near utopia where you have an absolutely limitless supply of clean energy for the entire world. What is the challenge? You're really trying to create conditions similar to that in sun, which is you will create such high intense heat that you generate a plasma in which the atoms fuse together, and that releases energy, and the neutrons bombard the outer walls of the reactor, and that generates the heat, which is then run into steam, and the steam runs the turbine. And now this is water which is available everywhere, and it is that water which is used eventually for the fusion of deuterium isotopes. Now the point here is that you create within that reactor a plasma which is 150 degrees Celsius. Outside you have this minus 273, which is for superconductivity to be maintained. This is an extraordinary engineering challenge. The physics is clear, but to be able to do this and to generate energy more than what you're consuming, at some point today, the fusion in some experimental labs are working. There are labs in MIT, in China, in Japan, elsewhere, which are working on this at a small scale. This is really an industrial scale project. So that's a very important point if this is ever successful. As you've mentioned, EU 27 plus India, China, Japan, Korea, US and Russia are participants in this. We have a 9.1% contribution, 45.6% is by the EU countries in this. Now, that is a very important future objective for humanity, is to be able to produce energy that is clean and it is almost limitless and with no proliferation concern, as you see in the case of nuclear fission reactors, which is the new source of nuclear energy today. The second important significance of this is that it also will be a great showcase of the capacity of Make in India. Many of the equipment there that I have seen have been supplied by Indian companies. Many of the software designs are by Indian companies, but that's no surprise to people. But the fact that some of those high precision, complex equipment on such a large scale, like the cryostat, the cooling towers, the cryolines, the diagnostic equipment, all of these have come from India as part of our in-kind contribution, apart from the small amount that we provide for cash. And we've got about 90 engineer scientists who are there from Department of Atomic Energy. So that is a great, to my mind, a demonstration of India's engineering capabilities when we put our hearts and minds to it. It's just that if we can do it at a national scale for our own industry, we can become pretty strong world leaders. The third point here is about India-France cooperation in the energy sector. You're already aware of what we are doing with in the clean energy sector, whether it is solar or renewables, or like wind, but we're also working on clean hydrogen. And we have international initiatives like the International Solar Alliance. And we are working towards creating partnership in both large nuclear reactors like the Jaitapur nuclear power project, which will be a 10,000 megawatt, 6 into 1600 megawatt reactors, as well as small modular reactors, which is also going to be a complement to the large reactors down the line. And so you have to see this visit also in these three contexts. One is that it is a project which could answer mankind's quest for affordable, clean, assured, and limitless supply of clean energy. Second is the demonstration of Make in India, which is there in some of the most complex equipment, which I have personally seen. And the third is the energy cooperation between India and France. And energy is going to be a key geostrategic issue in the 21st century. It has been there forever, but both in regard to conventional as well as non-conventional energy sources, so much of the geopolitical and geostrategic competition will be around the energy sector. And for India, it is going to be pivotal for our objective of becoming Viksit Bharat in 2047, and for attaining energy independence, energy security, and energy access. So energy is a very important part of our diplomacy, and it's a very important part of India-France diplomacy.
Indeed, while we are waiting for the visuals of the two principals, Prime Minister Modi and President Macron, jointly visiting...
I've lost you there.
I'll come back to you momentarily, Ambassador Ashraf, while we are waiting for the visuals of the two leaders jointly visiting the ITER project site. Let me bring in Ambassador Wadhwa into the discussion. Ambassador Wadhwa, I want to draw your attention to a couple of things that's mentioned in the joint statement, the India-France bilateral joint statement. One, it reads, the two leaders reiterated their call for reformed and effective multilateralism to sustain an equitable and peaceful international order, number one. And number two, they appreciated, and these are the exact words from the joint statement, they appreciated the growing cooperation in trilateral format with Australia and the United Arab Emirates. In this context, it talks about the joint military exercises that took place between France, India and the UAE. Your thoughts on the multilateral dimension of the India-France strategic partnership, Ambassador Wadhwa?
Yes, I think first of all, I think both the two ideas are quite interlinked, because in today's turbulent world, how do you achieve an equitable order which both India and France believe in? And that can only be done if you have multi-vectoral and pluralistic cooperation, because a number of organizations, including the United Nations Security Council, are quite paralyzed today. You look at WTO, they cannot make much headway in very important issues which are facing a number of countries. So therefore, in this situation, you have to look at the trilateral cooperation. In the case of India, Australia, and France, it's definitely linked to what all three countries perceive as an emerging threat in the Indian Ocean, in the South China Sea, and in the Southern Pacific region, primarily. And of course, related to that is the development which can come about if the three put their heads together for solving the pressing problems which face all three of them. In terms of the threats in the seas, first of all is the aggressive rise of China in this region, and all countries believe that there should be no hegemony and no dominance, and that the sea lanes of communication need to be kept free and open in order for international trade to flow freely. And that is the primary, achievement if these three can actually concentrate on and bring about something which is concrete by way of trilateral cooperation. In case of UAE, it's more in terms of economic cooperation, but also UAE is more and more now concerned about the threat which it faces, its economy faces, because once again, due to the threats to the sea lanes of communication, due to the situation that we see in the Red Sea, etc. So there again, the three countries are important players. France, in particular, has some very important outlying territories, not only in its vicinity but also far-flung territories, and so it has interests which are far-flung, and it's a power which concentrates and nurtures that interest because it wants to see a free and open trade flow across the world, and it converges with the interests that India and UAE have. So, in all these situations, they have come together because of shared interests and because of the threats that they see emerging in the future. In terms of the gains that India has for trilateral cooperation, the one with Australia is quite clear. We've seen how the Quad, exercises, especially the Malabar exercise, has grown in leaps and bounds in importance. And in terms of the UAE France cooperation, again, the Indian Navy will need to step up and play an important role as we look into the future. Then again, economically, there is a shared interest of alternate sources of energy other than fossil fuels, also cooperation in terms of new age technologies, digital technologies in particular, and also the new threats which have arisen around the world. So, in all three, in both these situations, the trilateral cooperation, in my view, becomes extremely important.
Indeed, let me take a moment to inform our viewers and my guests as well that we are standing by for a media briefing by India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri in Marseille towards the end of the Prime Minister's 3-day visit to France. We'll get you that in just a moment from now. But in the meantime, if I can quickly bring in Professor Kumar also on the discussion. Professor Kumar, now France is a resident power in the Indian Ocean region. Is there scope for doing more by India and France when you talk about the Indo-Pacific?
Absolutely. But before that, if I can add to the point
Sure.
on multilateralism,
Sure.
the way I see it, that US is withdrawing from multilateralism and US is trying to disrupt the multilateral institutions. It has withdrawn from Paris climate change. WHO is not supporting the WTO, etc., not helping in appointment of judges, etc. So, but in that context, the first point that you mentioned, that a reformed multilateralism, that shows a kind of importance that India and France attach to this idea that their institutions, multilateral institutions, they need to be reformed rather than completely disrupted. So this goes against the US policy in a way. Having said that, France is an important power in Indo-Pacific. It has far-flung territories in different parts of the world. One of the problems, what has happened in the last few years, is that France has been left out. Say, for instance, in Quad, France has been left out. In AUKUS, France again is left out. When there was some kind of nuclear agreement taking place between United States and Australia for submarine, nuclear submarine, etc., France was supposed to provide, and then US took over. So somehow there is a sense that France is not getting its due in the Indo-Pacific region, and that's the reason we see that France is very actively trying to cooperate with countries which matter in the Indo-Pacific. And if you are dealing with China in the Indo-Pacific, India has to be there, and you cannot simply ignore India. So beyond India, France is also trying to have good ties with, as you said, UAE, because if at some point of time IMEC develops, the route develops, and that country will become extremely important for India and France both, and it is important even today. And it's also trying to bring in other countries, Australia, etc., and also some of the Southeast Asian countries. So France is an important country, and France supports the idea of free navigation in the South China Sea. It is against the idea of this aggressive policy of China and South China Sea. So there is a convergence of interest, and the fact that India and France, we do have military exercise together a number of times. All three, Army, Air Force, and Navy exercises, we have done it together with France, and also in collaboration with some other countries. So we are collaborating very intensively with France in Indo-Pacific, and France remains, as they call it, a resident power in the Indo-Pacific because of its presence in several parts. And France is again the most capable country in European Union today. After the Brexit, the France is the only military in Europe which has its presence all over the world. France, and it has all kind of technologies, be it the latest aircraft, be it nuclear technology, etc. So it has outreach, it has territory, it has capability, and it is willing to collaborate,
Right.
like United States, which is pursuing a very disruptive policy everywhere in the world.
Indeed. Ambassador Ashraf, while we are waiting for the Indian Foreign Secretary's media briefing in Marseille, let me ask you about another facet or dimension which was referred to by Professor Kumar as well, the defense and security cooperation. Now, you just returned from the Aero India in Bengaluru. And if I can quickly refer to the joint statement as well, it says that both leaders welcomed the commissioning of the sixth and final submarine of the P-75 Scorpene class project, the INS Vakshir, on 15th January this year. And both sides welcomed the ongoing discussions in missiles, helicopter engines and jet engines as well. Your thoughts on the way forward for India-France collaboration in defense and security?
Well, two things. I just wanted to comment a little bit on the Indo-Pacific.
Sure.
I think France has decided on its own to stay out of Quad, though it does an exercise called La Pérouse, which it does with the Quad countries. I mean, I think it's part of its desire to maintain an independent profile and a strategic autonomy. It was part of the partnership for Blue Pacific, which was basically the Anglo-Saxon countries in the Pacific. But it walked out of it again because it felt that it was just too driven by the United States. And it made India's participation in partnership with the Blue Pacific as a precondition for it to join that grouping once again. I think what it sees in India, and what's also important for us, is to recognize that what we cannot do is to replicate the Cold War model of the 20th century of fixed large alliance systems, but a network of interlinked or a web of partnerships. And I think it is important for us, for our own sense of strategic autonomy, that as we participate in Quad, we have a separate and a very independent partnership with France and a group of other countries that may be built around this axis. That's very important for us to have that kind of multi-dimensional, multi-vector partnership and not be seen as too closely aligned with one particular major power. And so this is a point that I wanted to make over here,
Sure.
And it suits us very well. In fact, there was a proposal that the United States had mooted for France, India, US trilateral cooperation, which France actually turned down and said that we are happy to pursue our relations with India independent of any other relationship. On the defense partnership, we have a defense industrial roadmap, which is very, very ambitious, which is very comprehensive. There is nothing that we two countries can't do together. There is no country, including Russia, which is prepared to transfer the level of technology, the extent of technology that France is prepared to do in the most sensitive areas. And that includes jet engines. It includes, because the military jet engine is the most complex thing that you can imagine, particularly the HP course, which is the hot section. And it is the only country that has made that kind of an offer for complete design development, all the way up to certification of a future military jet engine that we can do of any capacity. I want to point out here that we are not going to get the hot section from GE, which is 20%, and which is what the most difficult part to manage. The second thing is that manufacturing TOT is really just a technology crutch, because we've had manufacturing TOT for Sukhoi engines and for the Rolls-Royce engines in the past. We weren't able to learn anything because all it teaches you is to put things together, not how to design, develop the metallurgy, the craft the engineering, because single crystal blade of the turbine involves 60 steps for it to be actually made. Those are the kinds of technologies that we are lacking in, and that is the level of technology which is in the hands of just a few companies, which France is prepared to part with. Also, with regard to submarine underwater capabilities, alternative propulsion systems, unmanned systems, the military space dimension, which is a very sensitive area, the advanced cyber dimensions, which are extremely important. So in the military space, in the entire defense cooperation, where we speak of naval systems, unmanned systems, aerospace, land systems, or we speak of those things which are present in every equipment, which is the navigation systems, the sensors. Those are things that, like Safran sensors, are present in even Russian equipment. There's nothing on the land, in the air, or on the sea which doesn't have those kind of equipment. Those are the areas we want to focus on, so that we actually attain autonomy and not have the pretense of having that kind of Atmanirbharta, as we do, for example, in LCA, which is actually 35 to 40% indigenous, rest is all imported. We need to plug those gaps, and it is here where we are working with France to plug those gaps. I should tell you that at Aero India, there is Safran is going to announce that it is going to set up its defense electronics unit. The first one outside France will be set up in India, and that's a big deal. The Hammer advanced weapon systems, they've signed an MOU to manufacture with BEL yesterday. Hammer has 3 kinds of navigation system. It can function with exact precision, even in GPS denied environment. And it can be a huge force multiplier for us, because it can be delivered below radar when it is released from aircraft. I'm giving you just some random examples, but you can think of any kind of defense technology, right, but also advanced materials, which is a very weak area for us, where they are willing to provide all kinds of cooperation. And our defense industrial roadmap, which was concluded last January, it provides an excellent, ambitious, wide-ranging, comprehensive, future-oriented roadmap for supporting India's mission for becoming defense Atmanirbhar, but also becoming a major hub for defense exports. I should point out 2 examples are MRO, which Safran is going to establish, the largest in the world for itself in Hyderabad, and Dassault establishing a MRO in Jewar for Rafale and Mirage, which will service not just the Indian fleet, but will also service the growing fleet of Rafale and Mirage jets in Indo-Pacific region.
Indeed. Let me quickly recap for the benefit of our viewers watching this special broadcast. You're watching a continuous coverage here on DD India of India's Prime Minister's ongoing visit to France. Remember, both leaders, Prime Minister Modi and President Macron, have jointly visited the Mazar War Cemetery in Marseille and paid tribute to the fallen soldiers from India and other countries in the First and Second World Wars. Then they traveled together for a joint inauguration of the Indian consulate in the city as well. And we are now expecting them to again visit the site of a nuclear fusion energy project. And we're also standing by on a programming note for a media briefing by India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri towards the end of the Prime Minister's ongoing visit to France. We'll get you all that in just a bit. But if I can also bring in Ambassador Wadhwa in the discussion. Ambassador Wadhwa, I want to draw your attention to another statement a dimension that's contained in the joint statement between India and France. It says both leaders held a detailed conversation on international issues, including on the Middle East or West Asia and the war in Ukraine. They agreed to pursue their efforts to coordinate and remain closely engaged on a regular basis, unquote. Your thoughts on the possibility or a probability of a convergence of ideas or commonality of interest insofar as Ukraine is concerned?
Well, I think, of the 2 issues that you mentioned and the 2 major wars that the world faces today, in terms of the West Asia situation, perhaps India and France will have greater convergence than on the question of Ukraine. The reason is quite simple, because France from the beginning has come out in favor of a situation where the aggressor is not rewarded, and it continues to pursue that line even today. How the settlement turns out, of course, is going to be closely watched. As far as India is concerned, India wants this war to end. In case of the Middle East, also in terms of the Israel-Gaza war, also India would like that situation to be ended as fast as possible. But in terms of Ukraine, it definitely has had an effect not only on the neighboring countries, on Europe, and as a percolation effect also on the global south, where you have prices of energy and fertilizer going up in countries in Africa, for instance. And we saw that repeatedly being mentioned during the G20 summit by the participating countries in G20 from the global south. Also, thereafter, there's been a follow-up that India has done with countries of global south to
Right,
put
Ambassador
forward their
Wadhwa,
views.
apologies for interrupting you there. Let's take you live now
Good
to
morning. Thank you all
Marseille for a briefing
being
by
here.
India's Foreign
As
Secretary.
you the Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, has been on a visit to France from the 10th to the 12th of February at the invitation of President Emmanuel Macron. This visit follows unique reciprocal gestures of the leaders being chief guests at each other's national days in recent years. President Macron had visited India last year at the 75th Republic Day on 26 January as the chief guest, and prior to that in 2023 Prime Minister had visited France on Bastille Day in the month of July. The current visit of the Prime Minister has two components. As you are aware, he was here to co-chair the Artificial Intelligence Action, AI Action Summit in Paris yesterday. And then there was a bilateral component to the visit, both in Paris and in Marseille yesterday as well as today. The last couple of days have been packed with a number of engagements, and let me take you through a brief overview of his activities here, and then I'll give you a run-through of some of the substantial outcomes that we have seen during this visit. On arrival in Paris on the 10th of February, shortly thereafter, the Prime Minister attended the dinner being hosted by President Macron in honor of the visiting heads of state and government, leaders of international organizations, and the CEOs of tech companies attending the AI Action Summit. On the following morning, that's yesterday morning, Prime Minister and President Macron co-chaired the AI Action Summit. Prime Minister addressed the plenary session. There's been a detailed press briefing on this yesterday itself in Paris, so I won't go into the details of that. On the bilateral front, the Prime Minister met with the President of Estonia, President Alar Karis, and also with the Vice President of the United States, His Excellency J.D. Vance. Following the AI summit, the bilateral component of the visit started with the two leaders jointly addressing the India-France CEOs Forum, which saw the participation of leading businesses from both countries in a variety of areas, businesses from the sectors of aerospace, defense, innovation, energy, infrastructure, agro-processing, and consumer goods were represented in the room. The Prime Minister acknowledged the key role being played by business leaders in both countries in bringing our two countries closer together and promoting our bilateral relations. He gave an overview of the next generation of economic reforms that's being pursued in India, which were also previewed in the recent budget that was announced and invited French companies to explore new opportunities in the India growth story, especially in the areas of defense, civil nuclear possibilities, insurance, and advanced manufacturing. Yesterday evening, after the CEO's Forum meeting, the two leaders traveled together to Marseille in the French presidential aircraft. It's an exceptional gesture by President Macron, and in fact emblematic not only of the deep personal trust between the two leaders, but also of the remarkable confidence that they have in each other, and that really characterizes the relationship as well. The Prime Minister and the President held discussions on board the aircraft. You could say that India-France relations touched new heights, literally. And these discussions on board the aircraft on a number of issues continued upon landing in Marseille, where the two leaders were joined by their larger delegations, and the discussions took place over the course of a dinner that was hosted by President Macron in honor of the Prime Minister. These discussions covered the entire gamut of our deep and diverse strategic partnership. The two leaders reviewed progress in the areas of defense, in the area of space, civil nuclear cooperation, and in the areas of health, as well as people-to-people cooperation between the two sides. There is an outcomes document which is also being circulated, so for the details you could refer to that. The two leaders appreciated recent progress that has taken place in all of these areas, in keeping with both the Horizon 2047 roadmap and in the defense area in particular, in keeping with the defense industrial roadmap that was adopted last year. Insofar as cooperation in artificial intelligence is concerned, naturally with the just concluded AI Action Summit and the proposal by India, which has been accepted, of India hosting the next AI Summit, AI was also a major area of bilateral discussion between the two sides. The next year, 2026, has been agreed between the two sides as the India-France Year of Innovation. And this will focus a great deal on technology, on innovation, on startups and academic collaboration between the two countries. And this was also something that was reviewed in the discussions. Apart from this, the leaders exchanged views on recent geopolitical developments in Europe, in West Asia, in the Indo-Pacific, and discussed a number of these issues of global and regional importance. Today, there have already been at least 3 events. Prime Minister started his program with a visit to the Mazar War Cemetery, where he was joined by President Macron to pay tribute to Indian soldiers who laid down their lives in the First and Second World Wars. Following that, in yet another exceptional and special gesture, the two leaders jointly inaugurated the new Indian Consulate General in Marseille, which had been announced by Prime Minister during his visit to Paris in July 2023. I can't recall too many consulates that have been jointly inaugurated by a president and a prime minister, so this was a really, really special occasion, and it speaks to once again, the kind of friendship, the sense of comfort, and the sentiments that are shared by the two leaders and our two peoples. The two leaders thereafter left for the port of Marseille, where I think they might have just finished by now. And the last engagement on this part of the program is a visit by the two leaders to the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor Facility, ITER, in Cadarache, which, as you're all familiar, is not too far from here. In fact, if you hear helicopters in the air, then that's the two leaders traveling to ITER. Coming to the outcomes from the visit, let me point at outcomes in 4 major areas. I should say that there is a joint statement that has been released, so you can refer to the joint statement for details. I think it's either already on our website or will be posted there very shortly. Firstly, with the hosting, as I said, of the proposed hosting of the next AI summit by India and the designation of 2026 as the India-France Year of Innovation, our strategic partnership is entering into a new era focused on innovation, on science, and on technology. The two countries have adopted a separate declaration on artificial intelligence, which identifies our key priorities in this area and explores the possibilities of cooperation in view of the large alignment that we see between India and France insofar as AI is concerned. For instance, our shared commitment to promoting the development of safe, secure, and trustworthy AI for the public good. At the CEO's forum yesterday, the two leaders also launched the logo of the India-France Year of Innovation in 2026, and I would encourage you to take a look at the logo that has been agreed, which represents, in a sense, the synergy between India and France. There were also outcomes in the areas of digital sciences and startup collaboration, which are contained in the list of outcomes that is being released separately. Secondly, in the area of civil nuclear energy cooperation, the two sides have concluded a declaration of intent on collaboration in co-designing, co-developing, and co-producing small modular reactors and advanced modular reactors. The two sides will also be cooperating in the field of capacity building of researchers and professionals in this field. Given the coming revolution in AI and the demands that it will make on the energy vector, this particular area of cooperation and development of SMRs and AMRs is a particularly promising vector for India-France cooperation into the future. Thirdly, on cooperation in the Indo-Pacific, we have concluded a joint declaration of intent for triangular development cooperation. Our partnership in the Indo-Pacific looks at providing solutions to countries in this region for their economic progress and their development in furtherance of the India-France roadmap on the Indo-Pacific. And the idea is for the two countries to identify and implement sustainable development goals and climate-focused projects in priority sectors, including digital innovation, digital public infrastructure, clean energy, green technologies, preservation of biodiversity, women empowerment, education, health, nutrition, water, and sanitation. As always, and keeping with our philosophy and philosophy which I think France shares, is for these projects to be demand-driven and not supply-driven, and for the projects to be owned by the countries in which they are situated. Fourthly and finally, we have substantial outcomes in the fields of cultural and people-to-people ties. I've already referred to the joint inauguration earlier today of the new Indian Consulate General in Marseille. Both leaders have also given directions for early implementation of the agreement between the National Museum of India and France Museum Développement, under which France has been identified as a knowledge partner in building India's new national museum, the Yuge Yugin Bharat Museum. The two sides have also operationalized the Young Professionals Scheme, which will help in promoting legal mobility of professionals, of skilled workforce and students in both directions. As I said, a joint statement has been adopted, and this, together with the bilateral artificial intelligence declaration and the list of outcomes, is available to you or will be made available shortly. So, as you can see, the India-France relationship, which has the strategic partnership, I should say, which has just completed 25 years, has seen consistent and all-round progress as per the three pillars of the Horizon 2047 roadmap, which is partnership for security and sovereignty, partnership for the planet, and partnership for the people. This ongoing visit has further solidified our long-standing partnership in the strategic areas of defense and security, space, civil nuclear cooperation, economic cooperation, and has laid down the markers for its diversification into newer areas of critical and emerging technologies, of innovation, renewable energy, environment, health, education, and culture, and has played a major role in further strengthening the already exceptional bonds that exist between our two countries and between our two peoples. Let me stop there, and I can take a few questions before we have to leave. Thank you.
The floor is open. Jessica? Yeah.
This is Jessica Taneja for DD India. There was a letter of intent signed for SMRs and AMRs, as you were mentioning earlier. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Sahil?
So I'm Sahil Pandey from ENI News Agency. So you talked about the trilateral format, the cooperation between the countries. How do you look at the future of the trilateral, and what projects they would like to converge on?
Okay, let me take these two questions. I think on the letter of intent related to SMRs and AMRs, this is something that's been under discussion for some time. As you're aware, the area of civil nuclear cooperation as such is not a new one between India and France. We've been discussing, for instance, cooperation in the Jaitapur nuclear power project for some time. That, of course, is a very large project. It has multiple aspects related to technology, to finance, also to issues related to civil liability. The area of SMRs and AMRs has come up in more recent times, but has progressed quite quickly, and the reason that you see a letter of intent is because both countries feel that there are real possibilities in taking this forward in the very near future. So the idea on this particular front is to start cooperation, because this is a technology that is still in its initial stages, even in countries which have been working on it for some time, and therefore our intent is to be able to cooperate in co-designing the reactors, co-developing them, and co-producing them. This we feel will actually allow us to tackle the complications that we are, for instance, facing in other areas insofar as conventional projects are concerned. So if we from the outset itself get into co-designing, co-producing and co-developing SMRs and AMRs, I think it can leverage the industrial ecosystem in India that already exists for nuclear components and nuclear power plants, and both of us will benefit from that. So the letter of intent essentially proceeds from that perspective, and as I said, the demand for SMRs and AMRs has already been identified. The fact that artificial intelligence is, I think you might have heard the comments of Mr. Fatih Birol yesterday, the DG of the International Energy Agency, that artificial intelligence essentially means electricity. And the amount of electricity that will be needed, if it is going to be sustainable, then it has to be something like nuclear power-driven electricity, and that is the area in which SMRs and AMRs can play a key role, and that's what this letter of intent sets out to do. On the trilateral cooperation, the idea essentially is for us, I think I have mentioned this, to look at delivering projects in a whole host of areas in third countries by seeing how we can leverage our respective strengths and our capabilities, whether it is in terms of financial support or technical collaboration or capacity building collaboration. The choice of projects will obviously be driven by host countries. As I said, these are demand-driven initiatives and not supply-driven initiatives. And we feel that it is important for us to provide choices to countries amongst our partners to have choices with regard to development cooperation pathways. So if they want to develop projects in the areas of climate, energy, infrastructure, health, education, etc., we would want to be able to provide them with alternatives. And I think India and France have a certain alignment in their thinking about this kind of cooperation. So this joint declaration of intent will essentially try to tackle that particular issue.
So with that, we come to the close of this press briefing. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your participation.
Thank you.
Well, those were live visuals from a press conference by the Ministry of External Affairs of India there in Marseille, giving an overview of the Prime Minister Modi's historic visit to France. The briefing was done by Foreign Secretary Misri. In fact, he spoke about the four major areas where the declaration and the joint declaration and the letter of intent has been signed between India and France, besides giving an overview of the deliverables as far as this visit is concerned. He spoke about these four areas of trust where both leaders discussed and the proposed hosting of the AI summit in India. Two countries also adopted a separate declaration of artificial intelligence to ensure safe, secure and trustworthy artificial intelligence for all. He spoke about the CEOs of Forum and how the logo was launched in this CEO Forum, which represents the synergy between India and France with major thrust on digital collaboration, and the second one being the joint declaration of the letter of intent in Civil Nuclear Energy Cooperation Declaration, where France and India will be co-designing, co-producing and co-developing advanced modules plus capacity building in energy vector, and the Third one being the joint declaration of intent in the Indo-Pacific region for providing solutions for economic progress by India and France. And fourthly, substantial outcomes in the culture and people-to-people contact were also identified by Foreign Secretary Misri, overall describing how this visit of Prime Minister Modi to France has taken this relationship to level next and has seen a consistent all-round progress in partnership for security, sovereign partnership and good for all planet. In fact, we take a short break here. When we come back, we also take a quick look at the other stories that we are tracking for you at this hour.
Clean energy is the future for sure. We are still not able to produce enough energy through renewable sources yet.